What's up, guys? Welcome to the 20K podcast. I am here with an awesome guest today, John Carr. He is our rockstar realtor, which you'll find out more about. How you doing?
I'm good, man.
Yeah.
We are caffeinated. We had Chick-fil-A, and you guys are on my home turf in Savannah. So
this is a home field advantage.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So we actually have Victor in the studio here today. He's going to wave and say what's up because this is just the hand. just the hand. Walk in there. Okay, we're here. So this is cool. This is a good chance to talk through some ideas because Victor's always spoken really highly of you and some
I
of the stuff
appreciate that, Victor.
Yeah, just keep us getting paid, then we'll keep the compliments coming. So we can start off a little more with the background because it sounded like you've had some pivots in your life. I would love to know what made you get into real estate.
Yeah.
What started that?
So I was a teacher. I was coaching high school baseball. I absolutely loved it. I have no regrets about doing that. I had my oldest son, who's now 5, and for the first time, I really started to care more about like long-term money and wealth. Mm-hmm. So I did what any millennial would do. I got on like Reddit, and I was reading about like wealth stuff, and I saw real estate investing was something that came up. So I was just kind of researching that. We had just bought a house. I enjoyed the process. My realtor is one of my friend's fathers. He actually coached me in high school, so like I've known them for forever.
Oh, that's cool.
And I happened to be going on a mission trip to Romania with him later that summer.
We got a lot of stuff going on here.
For sure.
So Reddit as the book of truth.
For sure.
You were a teacher.
Yes.
You have a mission trip going on.
Yeah.
So man of faith over here.
So we were in Romania, and we were the only 2 guys on the trip. So we would just sit there at night, and I would pick his brain, other stuff. And then the conversations just kind of continued. But eventually he was like, you need to go get your license. Like, I think you can do this. I think you'll do well with it. And if you're going to invest, you need to have your own license. But more importantly, just serving people and being from here, being involved in a lot of different things. So just having a lot of networks. He was like, I think you could be halfway decent at this. And then he helped me out during the whole process. And then I continued to teach for a year after I got my license. It was actually about half a year, but I got my license. I passed the class in December, waited for baseball season to end, started working part-time, or working that summer, then I did it part-time while I was teaching. Mm-hmm. While I was still teaching, Glenn, the gentleman that helped me out, who's a realtor here at Seaport now, went to showings for me. Victor's met him before at showings, but like while I was still in the classroom, he'd go on appointments for me during the school day. I sold 2 houses I never even went in because he handled it all, but he was so... At that time, he was probably as motivated, possibly more motivated than me to get me out of the classroom.
Okay.
Because I think he knew what this industry that we're in can do for people if you're willing to put the work in. And I think that you guys know that better than anybody. Like, I don't have to go to school for 10, 15 years. I don't have to accumulate $1 million in student loans.
You just go on Reddit. You just go on Reddit.
I mean, I'm sure, listen, I refuse to believe that Victor hasn't read stuff on Reddit or at least the Bigger Pockets forums about stuff. So,
yeah.
But it's just, that's kind of how we got into it. I was with another company. They were awesome. The Seaport opportunity presented itself January, I think, 2021. So, because I remember we were still in like COVID lockdown. And I made the switch, and Victor was with me from like, I think, that January right before COVID.
Yeah.
Because we closed on the one on 69th Street like June or July, I thought it was.
March.
Was it?
Yeah.
We were on lockdown, so I can't remember when any of that happened.
Okay, gotcha. I was going to ask how you guys wound up finding each other.
I went to middle school for 1 year with Victor's cousin, and the way I remember it, and Victor can step in here, I actually know all the details because they messaged me on my birthday. I was driving home to see my wife's grandfather in the hospital.
Oh, wow.
They sent me a message, and they want to start investing. I don't know if they'd interviewed other people before, but I think being that it was 2019, which was kind of a downer market.
Okay.
I don't think people were looking to pick up flipper clients, and I think he was just having a hard time finding people that were like, hey, this is what we want to do. We want to dream big, but we have no experience. We have to figure it out. And lucky for them, I also have no experience, and I had to figure it out. I had no clue about cap rates, rates of return, ARVs, like completely. I mean, I'd really been in the business functionally like 5 months.
Wow.
And so we got to kind of figure it out together, which is why I love Victor so much and why I feel so loyal to him. Of like, we've kind of started to figure out and grow at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's a cool process.
Okay, that's awesome. So before we get into, you were talking a little bit about the loyalty and how you're working with investors. What exactly are you doing now, so everyone understands?
So I am a associate broker here at Seaport. So I'm basically just what people know as a real estate agent.
Cool.
I would say a large bit of my clients are investors. I've got like Victor, I've got Spanish Moss home buyers as a client. They're awesome too. But I'd like to work with all these investors who have good reputations in town. And that's important to me. We're not doing shady deals. And I do a lot of the retail stuff. So I work a lot with my friends, family referrals. That stuff is fun. My real passion is the investing stuff.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, Victor and I will get ourselves in trouble. We work a little bit different schedules. Victor lives the Miami life, so like he actually has a life at night where like my kids go to bed at 8 o'clock. My wife's in bed at 9, so I'll go peruse the MLS and just run numbers and find comps for stuff. And even if it's just like, what's this neighborhood doing? Because I want to know where are the great rent spots, where are the next flip spots, and then trying to source deals.
I think a cool key there is that you're genuinely passionate about what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're into it, right?
Yeah.
Most people, it's like, all right, I'm going to dedicate this amount of time towards work or my business, and then it's like, get me out of here.
Yeah, I really like, if I have to be super honest, the houses themselves. I'm not going to go into a house and like geek out about crown molding. Like, it's just not.
What do you mean? Crown molding is beautiful.
Yeah, or people walk in or I'll have clients like, oh, they used, Mediterranean quartz. And I'm like, if you like it, I like it. And like, I have my own personal taste.
Yeah.
But I have a passion for helping. I like serving people. I feel like I'm very relational. Nice. Sometimes to a fault, but it's like, I like to, in my mind, almost like become friends with clients. And it's like, if that means I pay for a $500 clean out of a closing, like, it's not a bottom line thing. Because I truly believe that if you just take care of people and if they're generally happy, at least with your service at the end, whatever money you make or don't make takes care of itself, because this is a business that is so word of mouth, so referral. So it's like, you're happy, I'm happy. I want this to be like a service type thing. So for me, it's less about like the actual house themselves and like it's a people business. Now, you have to have a competency with knowing houses. You got to know neighborhoods. You got to be able to tell people if there's a good deal. So one, I like the relationships, and then two, to a fault, I'm like hyper competitive person.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily a fault when it comes to big as well,
it can get me in a little bit of trouble, but like I run numbers weekly on what other people's sale numbers are in our office and other offices. I like to know where everybody sits. I do it a little bit less.
Like, I'm a little competitive, and then you're like, here we go.
I may or may not accumulate a hit list every year of agents that I want to sell more than every year.
Good to know. So you heard it here first. Well, let's back up. Then let's go into this, right? So we've been doing. It's kind of been a theme when we do talk about, especially coming from investors, talking to other investors and developers, there's a way to work with agents, right?
Correct.
And there's also a way that agents can work with us and things that they should know of. So we call it being a rockstar agent.
Yeah.
Can you maybe share from your perspective? Because for us, that's, an agent that is on point with us. They understand how an investor looks at a home versus a retail buyer looks at a home.
It's so different.
So, which I imagine was at first you're like, this is so, because we've sent in offers. It's very different, right?
Yeah.
We've talked to other realtors, let's say in Florida, or wherever else that we're looking at, and it's been like, why would you even offer that? That's terrible.
They don't get it.
They don't understand. So can you walk through what you think makes a rockstar realtor?
If you're talking about, especially on the investment sphere,
not just general.
One, having someone that is like long-term focused. If the agent is more concerned about your bottom line than theirs, you're not going to get pushed into bad deals. Victor and I fight all the time of like, I might push him on a deal, but sometimes I'll talk him out of stuff. Like we were talking about one last night that's on a busy road, and I'm like, nah, ARV's not there. Like it's on a main road. I would never bring a client to pay that amount. And he's like, no, I have the comps right here. And it's like, I think that's important, of willing to have a dialogue of my concern. I could just be like, yeah, man, great house, go offer on it. And then he's stuck with an asset, if I'm right, that he's going to lose money on. I made my $10,000 check, he loses $100,000. I can't do it that way. Like we've got to be focused on your bottom line first as the priority. And then, like we talk about, like, I'll make money if you guys are winning.
Definitely.
So second, being willing to speaking the lingo and understanding terms, what people want of like ARVs, understanding how y'all buy the properties, understanding how your loans work and how your debt service ratios and points. And it's like, oh yeah, you can make 20 grand on this. This is a great flip. Well, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to have 200 grand. Like, it's not worth the risk. So understanding like risk equations and stuff like that of like what actually makes a good deal, and then working backwards from what y'all want. Victor is big on, and I assume you are then too, of like having multiple exit strategies.
Definitely.
So we're always looking at like, cool, I could make 50 grand on this flip, but that would be my only exit strategy, which really makes it like a C class deal. So that's not one we have to have, because I couldn't really refinance out and rent it and make any money. It's not in a neighborhood that's going to yield high rent. So it's like Victor likes to have deals that where it's like, okay, I can, if I don't sell it, I can pull most of my money out and I can cover my debt service with rent, or I can convert this, or I can add an ADU, or I can do all these other things. And my job is to think that way for him. So if I present a deal, or if he's just busy and he's like, check this out, I can analyze it and say, this is an okay deal, this is a great deal, or we're missing something here, there's nothing here. Because my value is to be a time saver, and I like to think of it as a time creator, to give you guys more time to source deals.
Yeah, it's cool to see that. I mean, you genuinely have a heart here.
Yeah, for sure.
I think a lot can be transactional, right?
Yeah,
Certain
and avoiding
agents.
that's like, that makes me super uncomfortable, like as a person.
Because you're like, all right, I can get, let's say you were like, oh, yeah, we can have this. We can buy this deal on this busy street.
Yeah.
I'll never talk to Victor again. I get my commission. I move on to the next guy.
Yeah,
sell, leave. And then you're looking at it like, no, this could be a long-term partnership. Like, this isn't just one deal. This could be 30, 50, 100 deals down the road.
It's fun having that, of having like a team structure.
Yeah.
Like, I personally thrive on that of like, this is our team. And like, I have that with a couple different clients, and that is more fun for me. The retail side's awesome. You get to watch people's life change. You get to watch them buy families or family homes. But like, from a business perspective, you know, they sell that house, they go buy their dream home. I'm 31. People are starting to buy that second home or that third home. They're not going to need me again for like another 10 or 15 years.
Right.
So like, even from like a business, if I am transactional, it's like, all right, if y'all are winning, if you go make 200 grand on a flip, what's the next thing you're going to do? Let's buy 3 more, man.
Right.
And so it's like, that's fun, and being on the hunt for how can we find a deal? How can we create something that's not there? How can we see a deal that no one else has seen? And there's been deals that Victor's put together that I didn't see, stuff of like, the one we bought on the Habersham Village area was like one of those ones that you talked about, like it had been on the market 7 hours and we shot a low ball offer in, and I was like, all right, man, we'll throw it in. And then they responded and took the offer, and I still didn't see they were going to make money. And then he did some conversions.
Yep.
And I think that's your best cash flowing asset right now, correct?
Yeah.
And that was a deal that I was like, man, like, what do you see with this?
Oh, so it kind of helps too with the educating you, and like, oh, okay, so this is what you guys would see in a deal.
Yeah,
or
I mean,
you
look
work together on it.
Like a term like that, I see, like that we use a lot of, like an ADU, an additional dwelling unit.
Yep.
That's
Love
not
the
a term,
ADUs.
That's not a term that comes up with 99% of real estate conversations.
True.
And like, I find myself, I've used them before with other agents, and like, hey, you think we convert this in ADU? And they have no clue I'm talking about, because your traditional person's not going to know that. But that's like value adds, creating value on something like, oh, that's a garage. This is zone TR2. Victor and I have learned more about zoning in the last 2 years than I ever wish to know.
You love zoning, right? Favorite thing?
It's a blast. I love a good spreadsheet and a highest and best principal use chart or whatever. But being like, oh, this is zoned properly. We can take this garage, we can make this into a 1-bedroom studio apartment, and then rent it to midterm executive rentals for $2,000 a month. So now we just added $200,000 if you're looking for a 10% return onto a house.
Right.
And so it's like, that house that really wasn't worth 300 is now worth 500.
Yeah. I'm going to ask another question on that, but to summarize some of the things you were saying, like you were talking about the multiple exit strategies.
Yes.
And I think as new investors, as I was quickly learning, thankfully having Victor here, was like, oh yeah, this is a great spot to short-term rental, or this is a great spot to let's just flip it and move on.
Yeah.
And he's like, hold on a second. He was like, you don't want to just leave it to one, right? So
Correct.
if something goes wrong and it doesn't make sense to rent it, let's make sure we can flip it.
Having patience and having multiple strategies, because
Yep.
real estate is a highly volatile business, and you never...
Roller coaster, for sure.
And it's not... I guess it's kind of like the stock market, but the thing is like, if I buy and dump stock or whatever, like it's just different. Like real estate's like, if I buy something, who could have predicted the COVID market? Who could predict the rates dropping? I mean, when COVID first happened, I had listings that were sitting. I'm like, we're going to have to slash prices. We're going to do all this. And then we waited 3 months and then they sold for like 20 grand over. But that's unpredictable. That's not a model. That's not like a chart. That was a world pandemic. And so if you were in the middle of a flip there, you had to be sweating bullets, especially if you're using private lending. You're paying 10% interest monthly and they're going to call the note due in a year. Like, you have to have another strategy to at least not lose your butt on it.
Well, let me ask you this, because you're talking about like this world, issues. How much has real estate led you to be more involved with what's going on in your neighborhood or the country, whatever?
I pay a lot more attention now. I was a history and civics teacher, so like paying attention to, elections, like we were teaching that.
Yeah.
But real estate's cool of like, it gives you opportunities to meet these people that can be like decision makers and shaping how the city functions. And a lot of times housing is always the biggest issues.
Yeah.
Like I have a client right now who's a really great dude, but like he's building like affordable housing down off one of the main roads, and like he's fighting the city to get the zoning permits because he wants to have these little 1-bedroom studios, and like conversations with him are always super like enlightening.
Wow.
But like I wouldn't have been interested in that 5 years ago.
Right. Now that you realize it could be a play together, that
correct.
I like what you said. You're helping shape the community.
Yeah. Or even like with flips, Savannah is a very weird city. There's a million vacant houses that people inherited. They just sit on. It's so weird. Like if you go drive down, and it's every neighborhood, you can drive down the prettiest neighborhoods in Savannah, and they'll just be these ratty, unkempt houses that no one wants to sell. They're owned by some heir in Kentucky, and they just sit on them.
Wow.
And I view, sometimes real estate investors can get kind of a nasty bit on social media and everything else, and like being like scummy landlords and painting over outlets. But like if done properly, you can revitalize neighborhoods, and you can add to what people's property values are, and you can solve a lot of problems. And if done right, working with people of like high character, like you can be an asset to society and then also make it profitable. And I think that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, that's a big vision for us. We always look at these neighborhoods, we're like, imagine if we had this or that there, right?
Yeah.
It's not just high level or high end A-class condominiums. It's what makes sense for the community, right?
Yeah.
And going back to, talking about some of these deals, and you guys obviously had a few, but you've worked with a few other investors too.
Yeah.
What's maybe one of your favorite deals or craziest deals that you recall, especially being an agent, being like, how am I working with this investor? Do you have anything off the top of mind?
I wouldn't say the deal itself was crazy, but the house itself was crazy. The fun part about investing is you go in houses that are really interesting. Sometimes interesting for reasons that make you want to take a really hot shower afterwards.
Wow.
But like I keep windbreaker pants, grocery bags, and boots in my truck at all times.
Okay.
So I'll go into houses, I'll throw on, it looks like I'm wearing I call it my homemade hazmat suit, and I'll even put grocery bags on my hands and my feet. I've left houses in my underwear before because I had fleas.
Okay.
And like that's why I started doing that. Yes.
Okay.
So you just never know. But like those are where the money is at.
Yeah.
The scarier the house. I have a video somewhere.
These are not penthouse condos. Got it.
It's not appropriate for the internet, but like
Fair.
I'm walking through this house and our contractor's in there, and we're walking through it. There's a tree through the roof. We found this deal, and we're figuring out what we want to do with it, and we're walking through. It's been vacant for years. The tree fell years ago. It is a true. It looks like a war scene.
Wow.
And we're walking through, and we're taking video, and there's like buckets in this one hallway, and we're like, we're not going to look in the bucket, whatever. The house is condemned. We may or may not have had permission to be in the house, and so we're going through there, and then we walk into a room, and there's just a homeless guy laying in the bed.
What?
And we had been loud. He just didn't say anything. He's just there on his phone, just chilling. And you can hear the contractor like, oh, and then run out, and like we're running out of the house. We just weren't. That keeps my life interesting, and finding deals like that, and that ended up being one of the more profitable deals that we've done.
Jeez.
But it was like getting the chance to go in that,
But like you said, people would drive past that. That's not. They don't think of it.
Or there are agents that go, oh, I can't do anything with that. And like, no, it's $100,000 rehab.
Right.
It's just a number.
But that's what makes it valuable, is that you understand this, whether it's from Reddit or however you learned it. Shout out to Bigger Pockets as well. That's the beauty of it, right? You know how to, if we're bringing you deals, we're like, hey, can we look at this? Can we send an offer? And you're like, yeah, I'm thinking about this, or I've passed by this before, and we actually did this with this investor. Like, that is super valuable for us, instead of being like, I wouldn't send an offer for that.
The nastier, more dilapidated, run down, vacant the house, the absolute better.
I love it.
That gets me pumped up with stuff, because now it's like, we're going to revitalize this thing and we're going to completely change it. And I get to watch y'all's crews do a phenomenal job. And like, those are where the money's at. The easy deals, if anyone can do it, it's not going to be profitable. You guys as investors get paid to solve big problems. And like, if you can just go in there and everyone's like, well, yeah, I'd love a flip that, we could just throw some paint on and do the floor. And I'm like, so you think there's going to be a house out there that someone's just going to let you buy with $100,000 of equity, that all you got to do is do painting and flooring? I call it like Chip and Joanna Gaines syndrome.
You let me know where that neighborhood is before anybody.
And I've told people before, it's like, listen, if I find that deal, I'm kicking that to my investors, or I'm buying it.
Yeah.
Like,
I hope you buy it.
Yeah. But it's like Chip and Joanna Gaines syndrome. People watch 3 episodes of an HGTV show and they want to flip houses. But then you're like, well, I want to flip houses. I'm like, cool, let's go in this house with the tree. And be like, no, I can't do this. I'm like, this is the game, like, this is how the money's made.
I love that. So going into, because obviously this is our first chance to actually meet, so I didn't know what to expect, let alone the fact that you were married and had kids.
For sure, yeah.
So you have a business here, you have a life.
Yeah.
It sounds like you have some fun events going on too later.
For sure.
Hence the golf polo.
Of course, yeah, and the shorts.
And the shorts. But talk to me, because I understand people talk about like life balance, there is no balance, but there's obviously a way that you have to work together with having a family and then also a business. Can you talk about how that's going for you and what you do, maybe some things you can recommend to other folks?
I think
how you balance that.
Time blocking, and being willing to just be really committed to, like, when you make a schedule, blocking and planning, even planning for things you can't plan for, which I know that sounds crazy, but it's like, I try to be working at 7:45 every morning, because my wife's a teacher. She's out the house at 7. I drop my kids off at 7:30. Then there's nothing else for me to be doing. So I'm either with a client, taking someone to breakfast, or I'm at the computer, or I'm here, but I want to be working at 7:45. So I try to start the day earlier. I try to be home at like 5:15. And so like structuring the day of like, all right, this is a work day. I think the problem with real estate is people just wait for their phone to ring and be like, oh, well, I don't have anything today. I'm going to go play golf, or I'm going to go do this. But it's like, if I'm going to do those activities, I have to block them, because it's like, all right, I'm working today, so I'm going to be working all day. And if I don't have anything I have to do, I'm going to find something to do, because we're working.
There we go.
So it's like, we'll follow up with somebody. We can always be checking on deals. If I get really, it's been a while, but like, if I don't have anything to do, like, I'll go drive around in my truck and write on a notepad of really crappy looking houses, and we'll get on white pages. We'll knock on doors.
Love that.
It's not like a daily thing, but like, there is something that you can do. And so treating it like a true daily job. Like, real estate is not a hobby. I hear people all the time of like, well, I want to get into real estate because like, I'll sell 3 or 4 houses a year and I'll stay at home, and like, I hope you do, because I'm going to beat you.
We love that for you.
Yeah, I love that. Like, but it's like, people see there are a lot of realtors that do it as a part-time job, and that's great. And like, sell houses, a couple of your friends, represent yourself. And then there are people who are, this is my full-time profession.
Can people dabble in real estate?
Yeah, absolutely.
You sure?
Yeah.
I'm asking you. It's okay. No.
Yes.
You won't be held against it.
And there's some really good agents that like, this is not, maybe they have a spouse that does really well, or maybe they're like semi-retired. Like, that's my goal, is like 10, 15 years, and I'll represent my friends, and Victor can call me and I'll sell his penthouse, downtown or whatever. But it's like, I don't want to be like hustling all day when I'm retired, but there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like having someone that like, I'm going to block my time. And then I brought in Will, who's sitting out there working right now while we're doing this.
There we go.
Will helps me with showings, and he's just overall like a great partner. So he's not really a showing assistant. That was kind of the role I originally imagined, but he's just kind of like a general business partner. He's got a passion for investing, and one of us, we try to always be available, and like, we just try to go get after it and serve clients.
I love that. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out. I think one last thing I would love to ask you is, you've had a pretty solid career so far.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself going with this 5-10 years out? I know you mentioned a little bit like being able to chill and when investors call me up, is there anything else that you would love to be involved with real estate wise?
Yeah, I guess I buy properties as well to hold. I don't like to flip because one, I think I've never done a project like that myself. I've been involved with all this, but you guys know flipping is a time-sucking activity. You better be calling your contractors every day. You got to be checking stuff out. You've got to be running numbers. So it's
been a fun couple of months with our flip.
For sure. So it's like feed the flippers, let them flip.
Yeah.
I'll do the occasional buy and holds, but I'm trying to build my portfolio.
Got it.
That's what I like to do personally.
Mm-hmm.
And then being more involved with like you guys of like Victor has grown his business and you guys have grown your business so much in the last 2 or 3 years, like seeing where that goes.
Yeah.
I think circling it back to like, I like being a part of things. Like I have you guys, I have some other groups I work with, and like seeing those teams grow and flourish, like is just awesome to be a part of it. Cause I would say that was the hardest transition of going from teaching to real estate. This is kind of a lone wolf business.
Mm-hmm.
Like, unless you're on a team, which I didn't really want to be, like I brought in Will, I have you guys, but like creating my own, like we're all going to win together. Even if that means I make a little bit less or something, but like there's so much to be made and achieved through this. Like doing on your own is just not fun to me. And there are people who are cut out for that.
Totally. I'm
not. Like I love some of the closings we've had, especially the early ones. Like I remember selling 69th Street and like the feeling of that of like, we did this.
Yeah.
That is worth so much to me and being a part of that. So like seeing that grow, and then hopefully you guys have made enough money where you can ride off into the sunset, and then my kids will be getting in high school, and I just want to go to a lot of sporting events and play golf, and I don't want to be working until I'm 60. So everything working backwards from that.
We'll have to go visit some opens and travel some solid
exactly,
courses.
Man.
Well, thanks, John, for being able to come on here and talk, and we'll definitely have more. This is, I would say, episode 1 of us
Y'all
talking
are always
back and
welcome,
forth.
Man.
So, another one of the 20K podcasts. Follow, like, subscribe. Talk to you guys soon.